The doctor just told me I'll never have children because of an infection I got from cheating on my husband, and now I have to go home and explain to the man who's been trying to start a family with me for 3 years why his wife is suddenly infertile. I threw away our future for a month-long affair with someone who gave me chlamydia and disappeared, leaving me to face the consequences alone. I'm Victoria, 27, married to Paul, 29, for 4 years. We've been trying to conceive for 3 years, going through fertility treatments that have consumed our lives and savings. Paul has been nothing but supportive through every failed cycle, every negative test, every heartbreaking disappointment. What he doesn't know is that our infertility isn't unexplained. It's because I contracted chlamydia from an affair and let it go untreated long enough to destroy my reproductive system. The affair happened 8 months ago with my personal trainer, Jamal. Paul and I were going through a particularly rough patch with fertility treatments. The hormones made me feel crazy, the scheduled sex made me feel like a machine, and Paul could only talk about ovulation windows and doctor appointments. Jamal made me feel like a woman instead of a patient. He flirted, complimented my progress, made me laugh when I wanted to cry. When he suggested drinks after a training session, I said yes without thinking. One drink led to his apartment. The sex was spontaneous and passionate, nothing like the clinical intimacy Paul and I had been reduced to. Jamal never talked about feelings or futures, which made it feel safe. Just physical release from the pressure of trying to conceive. The affair lasted a month. We'd meet at his place after my workouts, have incredible sex, then I'd go home to Paul and pretend everything was normal. I told myself it was just what I needed to get through the fertility stress. Jamal ended things abruptly when he started dating another woman at the gym. He told me casually, like I was a friend instead of someone he'd been sleeping with. Said he was looking for something serious and thought she had potential. I was more hurt than I expected, but also relieved. The guilt was eating me alive, and ending the affair meant I could focus on my marriage again. Then the symptoms started. Unusual discharge, pelvic pain, fever. I ignored them for weeks, thinking they were side effects from fertility medications. By the time I finally saw a doctor, significant damage had been done. The chlamydia test came back positive. I was alone in the doctor's office when she delivered the news and immediately ordered testing for Paul. His came back negative because we hadn't been intimate during the weeks I was symptomatic. My guilt about the affair had ironically protected him from infection. When Paul asked how I could have chlamydia when he didn't, I panicked and lied. I claimed maybe it was from contaminated medical equipment during fertility procedures. The doctor looked skeptical but didn't contradict me. Paul desperately wanted an explanation that didn't involve infidelity. The antibiotics cleared the infection, but the damage was done. Months of additional testing revealed extensive scarring in my fallopian tubes. Multiple specialists confirmed the devastating truth: I would never conceive naturally, and even IVF was extremely unlikely to succeed. Paul was heartbroken but supportive. He held me while I cried about our lost future, promised he loved me regardless, suggested we explore adoption. His kindness made the guilt unbearable because I knew this was entirely my fault. But Paul isn't stupid. He started asking more questions about the chlamydia, researching medical instrument transmission, talking to doctor friends at the hospital where he works. Everything he learned made my story less believable. 3 weeks after my diagnosis, Paul confronted me with printouts about chlamydia transmission. He'd learned that medical instrument contamination was virtually impossible with modern sterilization procedures. He asked me directly if I'd been with someone else. I tried to maintain the lie, but Paul kept pressing. He said he'd rather know the truth than live with suspicion eating away at our marriage. That he could forgive an affair but not ongoing deception about something that affected both our futures. I broke down and confessed everything. About Jamal, about the month-long affair, about ignoring symptoms until permanent damage was done. I watched Paul's face change as he realized that our fertility struggles weren't bad luck but the direct result of my betrayal. Paul listened without interrupting, his expression getting colder with each detail. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he asked if I understood that I'd stolen his chance to have biological children. I started crying, begging him to forgive me, promising it would never happen again. But Paul just shook his head. He said he couldn't spend his life with someone who'd destroyed their future together for temporary excitement with another man. He packed a bag that night and moved out, being on my husband, and now I have to go home and explain to the man who's been trying to start a family with me for 3 years why his wife is suddenly infertile. Paul filed for divorce 2 weeks after I confessed about the affair and my infertility. He didn't yell or make dramatic threats. He just said he couldn't build a life with someone who'd lied about something so fundamental to their marriage. The papers were served at my office, and everyone saw me break down when I realized my marriage was really over. The divorce was swift and brutal. Paul kept the house since he could afford the mortgage alone and I couldn't. He kept most of our savings since I'd be unable to contribute to raising the biological children we'd both wanted. His lawyer argued successfully that my infertility was the result of marital misconduct, which affected the settlement. I moved into a studio apartment across town. The place is tiny and depressing, but it's what I can afford on my salary alone. Some nights I lie awake thinking about the house Paul and I shared, the spare room we planned to turn into a nursery, the future I destroyed for a month with someone who never cared about me. Paul started dating someone 6 months after our divorce was finalized. Her name is Jessica, and she's a pediatric nurse at his hospital. They got engaged after 8 months together, and I heard through mutual friends that she's already pregnant with their first child. The news hit me like a physical blow. Paul is getting everything he ever wanted with someone who won't betray him. Jessica gets to give him the biological children I made impossible for us to have together. She gets the future I threw away for Jamal. I still see Jamal occasionally at different gyms around town. He's engaged to the woman he left me for, and they look blissfully happy together. Sometimes I wonder if he ever thinks about me, or if I was so forgettable that he's completely moved on. He has no idea that our month together destroyed my reproductive system and ended my marriage. Work has been difficult since the divorce. Everyone knows the basic story, and I can feel their judgment even when they're being polite. I'm the woman who cheated and got an STI that made her infertile. I'm the cautionary tale about what happens when you risk everything for someone who doesn't care about you. My family was devastated when they learned the truth. My mother couldn't understand how I could throw away a good marriage for someone I barely knew. My sister stopped talking to me entirely, saying she couldn't support someone who destroyed their own life so recklessly. The loneliness is crushing. I go home to an empty apartment every night, eat dinner alone, watch TV shows that remind me of happier times with Paul. I had a loving husband who wanted to build a family with me, and I traded that for a month with someone who gave me an infection and moved on like I never existed. I've tried dating, but it's hopeless. Men my age want children, and I can't give them that. When I explain my situation, they either think I'm lying or they lose interest immediately. Who wants to start a relationship with someone who can't have kids because of an STI from an affair? The medical bills from fertility treatments continue arriving months after the divorce. Insurance covered some of it, but we'd spent thousands out of pocket trying to solve a problem I'd created and hidden. Paul had to pay those bills even after learning that our infertility was my fault, not some medical mystery. Therapy has helped me understand the scope of what I lost, but it doesn't make living with the consequences any easier. I destroyed my marriage, my fertility, and my future for someone who forgot about me the moment he found someone else. The cost-benefit analysis is staggering in how badly I miscalculated. Paul sent me a wedding invitation, which felt like salt in an open wound. I obviously didn't attend, but I saw photos on social media of him looking genuinely happy with Jessica. They had the wedding we'd planned but never got to have, and now they're building the family I made impossible for us. Sometimes I drive past our old house and see Paul's car in the driveway, Jessica's things on the porch, evidence of the life they're building together. The spare room probably has a crib in it now, painted in colors we'd never gotten to choose together. The worst part is that even if I could somehow get pregnant through medical intervention, I have no one to build a family with. Paul moved on and found someone better, while I'm left dealing with permanent consequences of choices I made in a moment of selfishness. I gave up everything for someone who gave me an infection and disappeared. Now I watch my ex-husband live the life we planned with someone who deserves him more than I ever did. Jamal gets to be happy and healthy while I face a lifetime of infertility and regret. Paul gets the family he always wanted with someone who won't betray him. And I get to live with the knowledge that I destroyed the best thing in my life for the worst decision I ever made. The month with Jamal cost me everything I